Columbus Signature Academy 8th grade Bigfoot Fact or Fiction. We will be sharing evidence for both sides for you to decide. Let's get started.
How much food would Bigfoot have to consume per day? Well, me and a bunch of people, we did the math. He would have to eat about 21,262 calories per day. And to hit that amount, that would be like 66 avocados, or 223 apples, or 422 oranges, or 250 watermelons, or 193 bananas. Don't you also think that we'd be able to notice if that much food was disappearing for a species like Bigfoot? Because that's every day.
No one has found any remains of Bigfoot. People have been finding skulls of animals that are so small that they haven't been able to take a picture of until recently, but they haven't been able to find any skulls or bones of Bigfoot.
How come we haven't found Bigfoot yet? Bigfoot was investigated in 1976 by the FBI. A piece of hair was turned into them, but they couldn't find anything about Bigfoot's existence. There hasn't been any evidence of scat, bones, or hair or body of Bigfoot found. And if Bigfoot has been around for so long, how come no hunters have shot and killed one? And if there's so many sightings all over the place, somebody should at least have seen something.
Some of you might already know that during the global pandemic, animals started to roam into civilization. If we have seen cougars infiltrate the city, why hasn't Bigfoot joined the party? Pandemic rules have been waning and more people are traveling again. There are a lot of national parks and fertile Bigfoot lands, but no one has found any remains or prints in recent months.
You've probably seen this photo before. This photo was taken by Peter Gimlin and Roger Patterson, and it used to be widely accepted as evidence of Bigfoot's existence before it was revealed to be a fake. And these guys, they weren't the first person to do this. The first person to do this was a man named Ray Wallace, and he was a logger in the northwestern United States, and his kind of special prank was that he carved some wooden footprints out of some wood scraps, and he pounded them into a logging camp that he worked at. And this sort of spawned the idea that Bigfoot exists. But it wasn't that hard for him to spawn this entire myth, and maybe it's not that hard for other people to do it too. And I could give you examples all day that it's not as hard as you think, but you're not going to believe me unless I actually do it, so I did. I faked a Bigfoot encounter. So our quest for Bigfoot started out kind of when we started this project, and I was like, okay, how do I actually prove it? And this seemed like the best way to do it to prove this not that hard to hoax. So our first sort of point was to figure out, okay, so what does Hoosier Bigfoot look like? What is Indiana Bigfoot? And so we got on trustybro.net, and we took it for about an hour of vicious table making to figure out, okay, so Bigfoot, he was about 5 feet tall. He varies in color, it depends. And most people saw him when they were like moving around at night. So our second task was, okay, so where can we actually do this? And who's going to play Bigfoot, and how are we going to make a costume? So to answer the who, I have a friend named Bella, and she was about tall enough. She was like 5, she's like 5'4". So we're like, you do this. And she didn't have much of a choice. She was in my project group. And then for the location, I have my backyard is mostly wooded, so we did it there. Because there has to be something in the law books against faking Bigfoot encounters on public property. Like, I'm not sure, but let's just not touch it. And then, so to do the costume, it was kind of funny. So we got the shirt at Goodwill, and then we went to Hobby Lobby and bought like 1.5 yards of fake fur, like the morning of. And then for the mask, we ordered it off of Amazon. It's a gorilla mask. It came with gloves. It was nice. So on the day we decided to hoax it, so it was on a Sunday, because that was the only day we had free. And we walked out into the woods. We found our location. We got it a good pose, so Bigfoot was like running away. And then we went up to the house and we created the costume, which we did by safety pinning the fur onto the shirt. in a way that covered all of the brown parts, but we didn't have to use all of the fur because it takes a lot of fur to cover a human body. And we put on the mask, and we hiked back out into the woods. And so I have a camera, and so we brought that out with there. And then she kind of crouched down by this tree, looking all evil ape-like. And we got the photo, and then we got out because it had started to rain. So we put it into Pixlr to just make it blurrier because all Bigfoot photos are blurry. So we had to have that. So here's the photo of my friend Bella crouching down in my backyard wearing a Bigfoot suit. And it wasn't as hard as we thought it would be. So if 2 8th graders doing a school project can fake a Bigfoot encounter using stuff they got from Hobby Lobby and Goodwill and Amazon, then, maybe it's not that hard to hoax evidence as people think. Maybe it's just a matter of wanting to.
Scientists have studied hair samples and have found nothing. They have found no unknown DNA or anything like that. So scientists have conducted a DNA study they took the hair samples from the Bigfoot Museum. They claim to be real, but the scientists from Oxford University have found nothing that's unknown in the samples. Even the FBI took part in the case, but the FBI also found nothing, which is surprising, because they're the most smartest force of work.
If Bigfoot has been around for such a long time, how come we haven't found one yet? None living, and none dead. If Bigfoot were real, it would also have to eat a lot of food. We have no remains of anything it's killed. You see, hoaxing is easier than people think. The DNA that was found and tested by scientists, they found nothing. Nothing at all. With all of this reasoning saying that Bigfoot isn't real, it's obviously the most logical decision.
Hello, we're the believer side of the Bigfoot Fact or Fiction Symposium.
Bigfoot is next to us on the evolutionary scale. Bigfoot has very good adapting skills. We think that Bigfoot has learned to adapt to his environments from us as humans. He has been reported sightings all over the country, all different environments. So we're saying that he might have to adapt to all those environments. Maybe he's traveling from environment to environment and hiding from humans because maybe he works smarter. And so he goes from environment to environment, adapting to different environments. Bigfoot could be one of the smartest animals on Earth. He could be just hiding out in the woods somewhere because maybe he knows us as humans and how dumb we are sometimes. If you look at a hand and you compare it to Bigfoot hand, it looks almost exactly like. He still has 5 fingers like us. So what I'm saying is our descendants could be from Bigfoot. Maybe we got so adaptive from Bigfoot, how we learned from Bigfoot maybe, from our descendants, maybe we got to be so adaptive from Bigfoot.
Why is it that we never see Bigfoot? I mean, he's a 9-foot tall creature walking around and we just don't see him. Many people would automatically jump to the conclusion that he's not real, because they don't see him, he's not real. But what if I told you that Bigfoot lived in an undiscovered, unexplored area of the world? 80% of the world's ocean hasn't been discovered yet, so what about land? I did some research, and as it turns out, 65% of land on Earth hasn't been discovered yet. Places like the Amazon rainforest in Brazil, which is the most unexplored place in the Earth besides the ocean, and caves like the Santon Cave, which is the world's largest cave. A cave so big that 25 years after its discovery, it still hasn't been fully explored. So, is it so hard to believe that Bigfoot could live in these places that we haven't been to yet? Because he's a creature that's not inside of our environment?
Scientists have found evidence that proves Bigfoot is real. Chilchat, a scientist, found a footprint in 1987 that convinced him that Bigfoot is real. He said the ridge flow pattern flowed lengthwise, unlike human prints which flow across. The scientists found over 100 pieces of evidence that proves Bigfoot is real. Lead researcher Melba Ketchum was running a DNA analysis and insists that Bigfoot is an offshoot of the human race that arose nearly 13,000 years ago.
Native Americans have reported seeing Bigfoot. People that lived before us in America were more in tune with their surroundings and nature than we are today, so it is possible that they could have found something that we haven't. Ancient stone paintings also show Bigfoot. There are many different kinds of Bigfoot depictions, so it is likely that there are many different species.
Since the very first reported sighting in 1958 by journalist Andrew Gensoli, there have been hundreds of thousands of reported sightings from all over North America. Some of the many reported sightings have both photo and videography. There are also many castings, footprints, and Bigfoot actions caught on camera. Although none of the photos and videography have been proven to be real, this doesn't mean they are fake and Bigfoot could still be out there. Just like Ali said earlier, there is a lot of land that has still been undiscovered. Also, like Lydia said earlier, Bigfoot could just be hiding from humans.
Many trusted scientists will claim that Bigfoot is real. The first person is Jane Goodall. Jane Goodall is an anthropologist and a primatologist. An anthropologist is somebody who studies what makes us human. A primatologist is somebody who studies the behavior and more of non-human primates. The next person is Jimmy Chilka. Jimmy Chilka is a retired fingerprint analysis expert. And he said, many of the hundreds of prints I examined belong to a primate, but not a human, ape, gorilla, or chimpanzee. The next person is Jeff Meldrum. Jeff Meldrum is a professor of anatomy and anthropology at Idaho State University. He said, given the scientific evidence that I have examined, I am convinced there is a creature out there yet to be identified.
Is Bigfoot an undiscovered primate? Yes, we believe that Bigfoot is an undiscovered primate. We think this because 30% of the world is forest. 13% of that is unexplored. 28% of Canada is unexplored, and 47% of the US is uninhabited. If there's all this uninhabited and unexplored land, is it really too extreme to think that it's not as uninhabited as we think? The northern Canadian woods are the perfect habitat for Bigfoot. There's an abundance of deer, plenty of moose, and bears for him to compete with over territory. The Popa langura, a small leaf primate, was discovered last year, November 11th, on Mount Popa, its natural home. If primates are still being undiscovered today, is it really too outrageous to think that there could still be some in unexplored and uninhabited lands? Glasgow, Montana is described as, I quote, a middle of nowhere town, 4.5 hours from any city in every direction.
Ali said earlier that Bigfoot lives in unexplored areas. Perk said earlier that these primates live in these areas. These areas include mountains, forests, and swamps. Of course, Bigfoot had to adapt to these harsh environments. These habitats have all the nutrients they need to live. They are an omnivore, which means they eat plants and meat. These foods include grass, roots, buck, deer, and etc. This makes him a tertiary consumer, because he mostly eats meat. With all these factors in mind, how could Bigfoot not be real?
We think that Bigfoot has highly adaptive learning because he seems to know what human technology is and seems to know what to avoid to not be seen by any other creature or human. He also knows to mark his territory for other animals and to keep hunters away from his territory so he cannot be seen.
Thank you for your time, but now it's time for you to decide whether Bigfoot is fact or fiction.